Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the weekly Tottenham news review with me, Lee the Dorset Spur, here to talk about all the stories making the headlines over the last 7 days, give you my opinion on those and encourage you to tell me what you think about those stories. Well, as they say a lot of the time, that no news is good news. But unfortunately for Tottenham fans, that is not the case, is it? No news feels like very, very frustrating news. And so this is the second week where after we've triggered the release calls for Morgan Gibbs-White, we are still no further forward in that situation. And the information coming forward from the club is very, very, if not invisible, very, very limited. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we're all desperate to see something really going on, something happening, not necessarily with regards to just Morgan Gibbs-White, but obviously with the transfer window altogether, because we look around and we see Liverpool going big guns, we see Chelsea spending like there's no tomorrow, Man City doing the same, and now even Arsenal are picking up their targets for this season. And here we are, something like 9 days or something away from going into the Super Cup against PSG with literally one new signing through the door that's potentially going to start in the first team. So really, really frustrating and difficult situation to kind of get your head around. I guess my only saving grace is I know that some of these other things that we've kind of looked at have been very, very, under the radar. We didn't know until it was almost done that Kudus was coming. We didn't see the Morgan Gibbs-White, here we go, coming until it really happened. And we've kind of seen that in the past as well from Johan Lange. So maybe that's still the case, but it is concerning. It is concerning that it's taking so long for anything of note really to happen. Of course, there are things that are going on. We have seen a few things that have happened this week. So just kind of going through them. We know that Dorrington has gone back to Aberdeen, so good luck to him on a loan to see how that pans out. Obviously, he had a good stint there last season, and Josh Keeley has signed for Luton on a permanent basis. Again, I think from that point of view, they couldn't reach agreement on a permanent deal or on a new deal, and so ended up, letting him move on. Cheap price and so on, but good move for him. He had a good season there last season, and so he moves on, and we wish him well. The other one as well is Phillips going back to Stoke on another loan. So it kind of feels like it's never going to happen for Ashley Phillips at Tottenham, and pretty much expected, to be honest with you. I did think that was going to be the case when we brought in Kota Takai as a centre back as well. It did kind of smack of, well, someone's got to go. You've got Vuskovic, who had a fantastic debut last weekend, and so you kind of look at it and you think, well, if Vuskovic could come in and play like that and be the beast that he is, that's kind of going to put pressure somewhere. With Kota Takai coming in, they've got to take a look at him, I guess, as a new player. So yeah, it was kind of dot on the card that was what was going to happen, and it looks like Phillips was the man to make way. So yeah, no kind of real surprise there. But so there are a couple of bits and pieces going on. Nothing particularly major. The big story, I guess, certainly around transfers out, is the situation with Heung-min Son, which appears to still be gaining a lot of attention, and I think a lot of that is based on the fact that he didn't have a particularly good game last weekend. By all accounts, called out by a lot of fans and commentators about his performance and stuff. Now, it is early days, right? He's literally just come back from holiday. We don't know how it's going to pan out for him and so on, but it does feel like it's gaining legs for him to head off to the States, to LA. Now, it does seem a bit of like on the face of it, it feels like a big transfer for that league and for that club. But what you've got to understand is that there is a massive Korean community in the States, and Sonny is so big. I mean, he's not just big in Korea. He's big across the Asian world, and a massive draw. And we know from our own experience of how the Korean fans come to Tottenham that they will flock to see him. So that could be a big move for LA, and a big move for the MLS, to be honest with you, because they're racking up some bigger stars. Okay, Messi coming right towards the end of his career and so on, but there's been some big stars going over there, and Son still has something to offer, and I think it could really work in their favour. A market they've probably not really tapped into just yet, and a good move for Son, because obviously over there it's a big country with lots of space, lots of people, so he's going to have a little bit of anonymity, I guess. In and around the place, initially maybe. I don't think it'll last for very long, but of course, nice part of the world to live, good standard of living and so on, and when you've got money, it's going to work out better for you. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does go that way. I know we've talked about it before, but obviously no one wants Son to stay too long and get the wrath of the Tottenham Boo Boys and getting criticised all the time. We also don't want him to be a bit part player who doesn't feel like he's getting the respect that he deserves and so on. And we all want what's best for him. Now, if Son can come in and be, a really top player for us again, delivering some of the stuff that he's delivered for us in the past, then fair play. I'll be the first one to say, you don't want to let him go. But if it's going to be a difficult season with him dipping in and dipping out and everything, I don't want to see him ruin his legacy. So that's the kind of big story that seems to be gaining legs. But ultimately, I think it'll be up to the player himself to make that decision. I think the other thing that kind of does really kind of indicate that there may be a chance of him moving is this issue around the captain. The fact that Thomas Frank has said that he will pick the captain and he hasn't picked the captain yet, kind of indicates that maybe there's a change, and also the way that that's been talked about in terms of Romero rather than just Son. Kind of there's a little bit of a difference between how they're kind of panned out, because he talked about the fact that they would both play, they would both be captain in their respective halves of the game and so on. And they talked about Romero, he's really committed and all the rest of it. And when they were talking about Son, he kind of, there was something in what he said, it was almost like, we'll just wait and see. And I'm like, that kind of doesn't bode too well. It feels like there may be something in that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where that kind of goes. But it does feel like Romero is settled, is staying, and likely to be the captain next season. So, it does kind of point in that direction, doesn't it? Lots and lots of links as expected in the transfer window. To be honest with you, until they're holding up the shirt, I'm really not interested in what the answer is. But we're talking about links to Paulinho, Zabrini, Wissa, Rodrigo, Garnacho, Mainu, Conor Gallagher again has been mentioned. It's like, no one knows what's going on, and so it's just a case of let's just roll out a list of names who potentially could fit in the position, and just kind of go from there. I think the other one, Harvey Elliott, as well, been mentioned, which I really don't see. So lots and lots of names being kind of mentioned. I've also seen a story with Wissa, for instance, where they're talking about him coming to Tottenham, but then him saying that he only wants to go to Newcastle. So the reality is there is no in the know, really. No one really knows what's going on until it's really starting to happen. So frustrating, really, that we're kind of sitting here talking about this stuff. It does give us debates to have, but realistically, is Rodrigo really a realistic target? Is that something that's really going to happen? Garnacho, can we really see that? Is his attitude the right kind of attitude for Tottenham? I don't know. I don't know enough about him. I mean, personally, I thought had he started the Europa League final, I think it might have been a bit of a different story, because when he came on, he really changed the game. Mainu, another one, young player, but are his wage demands, an unreasonable level for what Tottenham would play? I'm sure Man United are more likely to pay the sort of levels of money that he's after than Tottenham are, and maybe just being banded around as a way of getting a better deal there. A lot of it is all just agent talk and media talk, kind of filling the pages and giving us something to really kind of think about. A couple of other things that are kind of happening over this last week worth kind of picking up on. Paratici, his ban has ended, and so now he's free to play his trade. Obviously, links in Italy seem to kind of fall one side, and the link with Tottenham seems to keep coming up. Excuse me. So, I don't know how you guys feel about Paratici. Brought in some decent players, brought in a few misses as well. I guess the ban doesn't sort of bode too well and doesn't make you feel too positive about his tactics and what he does and so on. But we need someone in that role who can help Johan Langer and identify these up and coming players and bring them over to us, and build for the future. Is he the man who's got his fingers in lots and lots of pies? I don't know. It's just another one of those. He's worked for us before. It worked okay. It was going okay. So you think to yourself, well, maybe he's still able to deliver something for us. I mean, you've got to bear in mind, although he's been banned, he hasn't been on another planet, has he? He's still been in and around Tottenham. I think he's been seen at games and so on. So it'll be interesting to see what's made of that. I know they're having this big restructure, aren't they, in the hierarchy? So it'll be interesting to see whether he does get a position in that. I think one of the other things I kind of just wanted to pick up on is how this is all panning out. I'm getting to a point where at the beginning of the season, or at the end of the season, when they sacked Ange Postecoglou, my biggest concern was that we were going to be in a situation where we were just going to rinse and repeat. Levy was going to do the same old thing, whereby we bring in another manager who's going to be a project, who's then got to spend time going through the squad, working out what he wants, deciding his style of play, which then reduces your need for meaningful purchases. I felt like one of the reasons why Postecoglou got the sack, not just because of our league position, but one of the reasons why he got the sack was because he would now need significant investment to bring in the right sort of players to allow us to compete in the Champions League and so on. By getting rid of him, the expectation from the fans has now dropped right down again. Nobody's expecting another trophy. No one's really expecting us to go very far in the Champions League or anything like that. And we've brought in a manager who is now going to work with the squad that he's got and develop those players. Well, they should be developing the players anyway. That's their job. But that's what he's known for. That's what he's about, developing players, as if to say, well, we don't need to buy any more players. We've got a decent squad. We just need to develop the young, talented squad that we've got. A bit like when Mourinho came in after Pochettino. They just need that right bit of knowledge of how to win, because they're a talented squad. And Mourinho came in and found out, actually, no, I do need investment. So it'll be interesting to see whether we actually do make any purchases, because it feels like you're being banned. All these names are being bandied about, but there's no real substance to any of it. Like the Morgan Gibbs White thing sounded like a really big deal. We were going to go for it. Bringing this player in at the same time as we've just brought in Kudus for 55 million. Bang, there's 60 million for Morgan Gibbs White. And then there was talk of Wharton and this war chest of money that's coming in from investment and all the rest of it. It's all gone very, very quiet. Is that just PR? Is that just a PR stunt? Just to kind of get us all excited and make us feel like, we tried FC, rather than actually going to make something happen. So I'm hoping that I'm not getting mugged off again, and that there will be investment coming in, because this squad is definitely not big enough and strong enough for the Champions League. I know people go, got far too many players, we've got to thin the squad out, blah, blah, blah. You haven't. You've got Champions League and FA Cup and League Cup and Premier League all to play in. You can only name so many players in a squad and all the rest of it. Fine, I get all that. But you've got to name the right level of players. And you don't want to be getting rid of people until you've actually got people able to improve what you've already got and come across in a better way, a stronger way, and so on. So I'm not concerned about the size of the squad. Unless that's what's holding us back and that we need to sell to be able to buy, which I don't believe is the case. I really don't. If you can spend that 55 million like that, and you can bang out another 60 million, and bear in mind a lot of these deals are spread over time and all the rest of it. So that's kind of how a lot of these clubs are getting around it. I mean, Chelsea are spending money like nothing. Liverpool doing the same. They're not paying that money out in one go. They're structured deals that take over the course of time. So I think there's ways around that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I know that kind of watching a lot of the videos that are coming out of Tottenham Hotspur at the moment, lots of videos on their YouTube channel and Spurs play and so on, all focusing on the training and the effort the players are making and all the rest of it, kind of indicating that wasn't there before, which you can't believe that they weren't training, surely. But yeah, lots of training going on. Look like they're running an awful lot, working really, really hard. So a bit concerned about that in terms of, is that going to mean injuries and so on? Because that's what Ange caused by pushing them so hard, wasn't it? That was the big concern that everyone was calling out. So I'd be interested to see how that pans out. But it does feel like the PR machine is working as hard as it can to try to convince us that Thomas Frank is developing these players and putting proper tactics into them, and that means that we don't need major investment, when in reality we all know we do need major investment. So yeah, I don't know. I'll wait to see where that kind of pans out. But in terms of good news for Daniel Levy is he's likely to be awarded the Freedom of the City of London, no less. Now a lot of Tottenham fans are going to turn our nose up at that and go, what a joke, the bloke's destroying our club and blah blah blah. But the reality is, when you consider the stadium that's been delivered, the improvements to the Tottenham area, the idea of new flats being built, for instance, a big hotel, all the events that are going on at the stadium, employment opportunities that have grown, the improvement to the local community in terms of when you've got these events on, the pubs and the restaurants and the bars and so on reap the benefit of that. The underground, the train tickets, the taxis. There's a lot outside of just Tottenham that benefits from that. So I can understand why that talk has kind of gathering pace. And I guess realistically you have to kind of go, well, yeah, it does make sense, and he probably does deserve some recognition from that point of view. But as a Tottenham fan, thinking about Tottenham and thinking about my football club, it's a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it? A bit of a slap in the face. So yeah, not very happy about that. But fair play. I guess the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on is on Saturday. We are now having a double header. So Tottenham are going to play at 11:30 behind closed doors against, I think it's Wycombe Wanderers. And then at 3 o'clock we have another game against Luton, away at Luton, this time in front of fans, to be able to go and watch that game. Two teams with the idea of giving as many players as many minutes as they can to get those minutes into their legs, to get them a bit more match sharp before we fly off to the tournament in Hong Kong. So yeah, I kind of get it. I've never seen that sort of thing happen before. I kind of get it, but it does indicate that there are a lot of players that Thomas Frank wants to look at, wants to cast his eye over and see how they're doing and what their fitness levels are like. I mean, you got to remember that Kota Takai has been injured, so with an impact injury. So is he going to get some minutes somewhere? Richarlison, who they're trying to build up, is he going to get some minutes to see how he's progressing? I've seen him in the training videos. Looks pretty fit to me. You've also got Maddison coming back for injury. He's training on grass. You've got Bergvall as well coming back from injury, playing on grass and so on. So there are a lot of players that are sort of coming back and have come back late. The under 21 players as well coming back. All need to kind of play some football and see where they're really where they're hitting at the moment, and who's going to stay and who's going to go, I guess, is part of that. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. I think they're both on Spurs Play, so you should be able to watch them on there if you're subscribed to that. I think yes, it's like £45 a year to have that. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. We're not expecting the same players to play in both games. It's definitely going to be two games, two teams. But yeah, it makes sense to kind of see how these players are going. Gives them, I think he said something between 60 and 75 minutes each, just to kind of get the feel back into it. So yeah, interesting concept. Something that I've not seen happen before. So yeah. So interesting weekend. I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about come Monday about those two games, about who did well, who didn't do well, and whether Vuskovic can show up again and do the same as he did last weekend. I mean, that boy, he does not look 18. He is a unit, absolute unit, and looks decent. But it's one game. So we've got to wait and see how he gets on. It was against Reading, so you've got to give it a little bit of time to see how he will perform. But the potential is there. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, anyway, I've waffled on 23 minutes so far. So I'm going to leave it there. I'd just like to say, can you please, if you're not already, subscribe to Chris's channel. Doesn't cost you anything. Keep saying that. Doesn't cost you anything, but you'll get to see all the different content that Chris puts out on a regular basis. Keeps you up to date with his 60-second news reviews, daily news reviews. You've got Craig, you've got Harry, you've got Barnaby. There's lots of people contributing now. and keeping all Spurs fans up to date with various different stories. If you like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm and gets the video out there to other people. If you've got anything to say, any comments, please do feel free to leave your comments or read them all, and gives us an idea whether we're going in the right direction or whether there's something else you want to hear me talk about. But as I say, thanks for watching the video, and as always, up the Spurs.